Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, so as Ann said, I'm Josh Popsie. Actually, I was going to start the speech in Icelandic and then just kind of confuse you guys, and then nobody would know it, could even correct me because I don't even know how to speak it yet. But yeah, so well, I guess I can. Let's see, is this working? No? Okay. How about this, the old space bar? Yeah, so I always, when I go to conferences and stuff like that, and people get up and speak, or when I was here and people would speak, I would kind of do like, all right, like, when do I get to drink some wine and eat some food at high table? So let me tell you a little bit who I am, and maybe why you should, listen a little bit. So this is me. You guys can talk to me about anything. I played hockey. That's me at Oxford. That's the ambassador of Iceland that I met. This is Richard. He used to be the head of the dining hall, who's now John, who I stayed friends with since I left Oxford. I shot a music video in London. I used to be a recording artist. I'd rather not talk about that. I just wanted to put it up there because, like, it's just, we go through phases in life, people, and never should you go through a phase where you're wearing makeup in a music video, as a guy, at least. This is me signing. Then I moved to, I started working in Iceland there. These are a bunch of paperwork in Iceland. This is an Icelandic course. This is behind a waterfall. You can't see it well. But as you can see, my phases of life, I go by the hairstyle that I had at the time. So you can see this was just bad. I don't know what happened there, but it just didn't work out. But anyways, so that's just, I started here. I went here. Why you should listen. I was here in your seats 4 years ago. And since then, I was supposed to get my master's degree at Bonaventure and finish up there. Instead, I started working for Icelandair in our North America office in Boston as just an online marketing coordinator. I got promoted to the digital marketing manager in North America and the global co-director of social media. That was like the world's longest title I think, ever. And then back in December of last year, the SVP of Sales and Marketing and the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Icelandair came to me and said, hey, we kind of like what you're doing in North America. We want you to come to Iceland, and we want you to tell us what you would do for Icelandair in online marketing. So basically, I came up with this presentation of like 16 slides, and I was like, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what my job titles would be. And they're like, all right, awesome. We want to hire you. Like, how much do you want to get paid? I said my salary, and that took like 3 seconds. He goes, we'll pay you that. Worst decision of my life. I should have negotiated or something. I should have shot for the moon there. Unfortunately, I didn't. But yeah, so since then, I've been back and forth from Iceland a little bit now. But yeah, now I'm heading up the strategy for Icelandair and online marketing across globally. So I work with all of our local regions we have an office in London, which I was at the other day, and I'll be there tomorrow. We have an office in Copenhagen, Paris, and Frankfurt, and our Boston office. So I coordinate with the regions and kind of dictate what the global strategy is going to be online. So how do you go from being here to, getting to the next step? Well, here's why you guys made a great decision. I, did some research because that's, you got to have some numbers in your presentation. So this is for North American students. 10% of students study abroad. 65% of employers find it valuable. I think this is a great stat. I updated this from last year. It was 83% found jobs within the first 6 months, and now it's up to 90%. So we're seeing that trend in the right direction. I mean, it's already high, and I think this is a great stat too. 2/3 of people who studied abroad after 5 years become a manager in a company. So you guys are sitting in the right place right now. Oh, so while you're here, the best thing you can do, we've all lived at college before, we've all had roommates and things like that, but now you're in another country, you're in another culture. Mom and dad aren't down the street or, a short plane ride away. And this is really where you start becoming who you're going to be after you graduate. This is where you start building to the person that you want to be after you graduate. Because your first, few years in uni, you're having a good time, and you're like, you don't really, not everybody's 100% sure what they want to do. But this is, now is the time to really, look at what you have to take this summer as an opportunity. And you can't just go through the motions. You can't just, we're going out to the pub, and then we're going to go down to the beer cellar, and then, had Thai table night, awesome. And, you can't just go through the motions, because you're going to leave here, and you're going to leave here with memories of going down to the pub and getting drunk, which is good and fine if that's what you want to do. But if you want to use this summer to better yourself and to look better to employers, then you have to go about it in a different way. You have to approach this summer in a different way. And this is a quote that I like, that basically, if you can't sit down and tell me why this summer made you a better person, made you more cultured, then you basically you're telling me that you just wasted your summer away in, studying abroad. And a lot of them, employers, they don't just want people who just go and drink and have a good time. They want people, and I don't want to come off as don't have fun here, because I mean, there's a picture coming up later. You'll see what I was like when I was here. I'm not that serious, but you have to be able to take this to employers and be able to, really describe to me why this summer made you why this summer made you more employable than the other 400 people that want the same job as you. Because when you get out of college, you're looking at resumes, and I've hired 2 people. Some of you might know, I don't even know if he's actually announced this yet, but some of you from Bonaventure might know Bradley Wigston, who was here last year. I hired him to replace me in North America, so he'll be taking over. We're going to be working with him in August. He'll be working with me for 2 weeks before he takes over on his own, but nobody go post on his Facebook. I don't think that's out there yet, but I just wanted to let you know that, it can happen to you too. And so here's a little bit, you have to ask these questions that you're going to get asked are about the time that you were here. And you have to be able to answer the questions of, why did this change you, and what impacted you the most, your personality, and how did you change as a person here? And if you can't do those things, and here's the thing, you can sit there and you can tell me right now how this summer changed you. You could sit in a room and tell me that. The problem is, you don't get to sit in a room with me until I see your resume. So if you can't tell me on your resume why this summer changed you, why this was a valuable opportunity for you, and how you capitalized off this opportunity on your one sheet of paper and in your cover letter, you're never going to get the opportunity to do that. Because it's easy to say it, but it's harder to show it. So let me talk a little bit for when you do put this on your resume. This is more than just an education, okay? You don't just list this in your education. You have to say, this is international experience. What classes did you take? If you're taking marketing, talk about, look at the company that you're applying for, see what they're about, and capitalize off of that by putting in some keywords or things like that that you experienced while you were here. And I just like to put this in here, like, because you studied abroad, you should have, be more adaptable because you're adapting to a new situation while you're here, and you have better communication skills. Even though this is an English-speaking country, I think we all know that, been and the loo, and, it's still a little bit different. So, and you have to solve problems, and you have to kind of become, even if you're not a leader, like, you're independent, so you kind of gain this sort of leadership quality while you're here. So I just put together a quick, if you were to put this like on your resume, let's say you're here and you're doing marketing, you have to make your time valuable here. Like, reach out. Let's say you're in marketing, there's plenty of global marketing firms, okay, that are in London, and there's plenty of marketing firms in London that will gladly let you come in for a day or walk you around the office or show you or talk to what it's about. All you have to do is send an email to them. And you kind of get, the understanding of what things are like in a global, part of this is becoming a global person. You're not just someone who went to a small college, or your big move, for me before this was I moved from New Hampshire to Olean, New York. I'd become that much more cultured in Olean, New York. So, yeah, you're adapted to living in a multicultural environment. You complete a 6-week program, and this is what I like the most right here. This is what I think is taking your experience and making it a value, which is, I just came up with this idea where you could interview UK citizens on, Brexit's the big thing now, and you can do some study on it, get some statistics, talk to some people on how the political parties marketed to the citizens. And you could do a write-up on if you have a blog, or you don't even need to put it on a blog. You can just make a study and just do it and include it in your portfolio for your resume. And that, to me, this tells me this person just didn't go and hang out. They were interested. They embedded themselves in the culture. They talked to the people, and they really took the next step. And they really, and by the way, if anybody wants to do this, please. This seems interesting to me. I don't know why, but I know just being in the States and when I was in Iceland, we get the BBC. So I was kind of just tuned into that. And it's weird how, when you peel back the layers of the whole Brexit thing, of like what things start as, why they wanted to do it, and then what it becomes. Like, for example, it became all about like immigration at the end. Same thing with the US election right now. It started as one thing, but now it's like immigration. So it's like, we'll see what happens. But it's like the political parties are how they market to the citizens, what they tell you it's about, because you're not going to go read a 900-page document. I don't know. I just thought that'd be interesting. But it's basically just showing, like, there's opportunities here. There's opportunities to look at things in a different way and show employers that. Secondly, I always like to touch on LinkedIn because I think LinkedIn's turning a little bit into Facebook. And so I always say keep it professional, because this was my LinkedIn photo when I graduated from St. Bonaventure. And that is at Oxford. So, this is a guy that you're getting his resume. First thing I do when I get we put the jobs on LinkedIn. But anytime, the first thing I do is I look, if I like your resume, I immediately go to your social media, and I immediately see everything that you're posting. So I would keep it professional across all social networks, but especially if you're applying for a job on LinkedIn, every employer is going to look at your profile, and you can't, when I do it and you apply for the job, you can't see that I actually looked at your profile. So you're not even going to know how many employers are checking your profiles. It'll just show up as anonymous. So don't do that. Beautiful. do that. Um, write a summary. Nobody writes a summary on LinkedIn. Like, nobody does. If I read your resume and I like it, and then I go on LinkedIn, and then you have a great summary, you tell me about yourself, what you've done, what your experiences are, why, you have business, let's say you're going for business, like, or finance job, talk about that. Talk about, yourself and projects that you've done. Always write a summary, because that just tells me, there's so many applicants, all I want to know is more about you and what sets you apart from all the other people. So every step of the way, you have opportunities to set yourself apart, or, opportunities to set yourself apart in the wrong way. Always do endorsements, get recommendations, have your tutors write how awesome of a student you were in Oxford, make MJK, say you were amazing, student here and you really applied yourself. And I mean, that stuff doesn't just come because you ask. You do have to, do stuff. You do have to set yourself apart. And like I said, you could take the project that I talked about before and include that in your LinkedIn profile. And then if you can go premium, like for example, here's what I did. LinkedIn was doing the 30-day free premium. They do it like all the time. So I said, all right, I'm getting a job. I signed up for premium, and I just started applying for every job I could. But here's the big issue. When for the job Bradley just got, for my job, 400 applications came in. But guess what? I asked them to include a cover letter. 50% didn't even include a cover letter. And then, so of the 50 remaining percent, 25% of those people just clicked apply on LinkedIn. I said, please attach a resume. They didn't do that. So immediately from 400, you cut out 75% of the people just because you didn't follow the simple directions that I asked for. Because we're sort of in this fast pace, like I'm just whipping out job applications, I'm applying for this, applying for that. And to think that an employer is actually gonna contact you just because you hit apply now on LinkedIn and then hit okay, you're out of your, this is not gonna happen. You didn't show any effort whatsoever to get the job. So apply, include a cover letter if they ask for it, include one if they don't ask for it. Show that you really want the job, because there's there's other people who do really want the job. And so just for a cover letter, when you do include it, you have to, it's so annoying. You wouldn't believe how many cover letters I get that have the wrong company name in it because they applied for some other job. I said, I'm going to use my cover letter again. And they try to substitute Icelandair in, and then they miss one. And it's just an immediate throw. It makes me laugh, so I appreciate that. But, talk about your study abroad in it. Tell me what you can do. I want to know what you're going to do for my company. I want to know why you're going to make Icelandair better. Why do I need you? Talk about that in your cover letter. Show some personality in your cover. Because I guarantee half of you, when you go to apply for jobs, you're going to go, I don't know how to do a cover letter. Let me just Google how to do a cover letter. There's going to be a template. You're going to copy it. You're going to paste it. And where it says company, you're just going to erase it out and just put the company that you're applying for. And it will say, tell 3 personality traits here, and you'll just, put 3 in. We know that. I get so many applications. You know how many cover letters? There's 10 of the exact same cover letters. I think it's pretty obvious, and I can Google cover letters and see that as well. The number one thing I would say, and the most important thing, is to network. I came here last year, and I met Brad, and I liked him. I didn't remember exactly who he was, but that wasn't what was important. He applied for the job. He was somebody I knew. It's somebody just top of him. Oh yeah, I remember that kid. And that's how he got his foot in the door. And then I said, okay, well, let's see what this, let me at least, by just doing that alone, by just him networking and talking to me and coming up and speaking to me, he already had his foot in the door. He could have screwed a little bit up in the cover letter. He didn't, but I still would have. Oh yeah, funny story about that. Never try to speak a language you don't know. Don't go on Google Translate and put, if you're applying for an international company, because he did that and he tried to say like bye in an email and he said Hafen Dag, which is have a fine day in Danish. We're not a Danish company, we're an Icelandic company. So I did correct him on that, but and I let that slide only because I knew him. Anybody else, I would have been like, okay, man, like, no. But so network, like you're here. There's, like I said, I come back here and, you know, I know I have a network here of people that I know, people that I met out. You know, one of the greatest things about Oxford is people will actually talk to you if you go out for a pint and you're just hanging out, and you know, people. It's very socially. England in itself it's a very social country around, you know, drinking. If you notice, they don't drink like American college students. They drink like professional people, where they go out and they have a pint and they chat about work or whatever social thing is going on. I'm sure Brexit was a pretty hot topic of conversation around many pubs. But you can talk to these people. They'll talk to you. And a lot of these, you know, these aren't Americans. They have very unique perspectives on things. They all have, I'm sure they all would love to talk to you about Donald Trump and what's wrong with us and how this has even happened. And trust me, I get it. Every country I go to, eventually in dinner conversation, Donald Trump comes up in every dinner conversation. And unfortunately, Boris Johnson dropped out, because that would have just been great, because that's like the Donald Trump of England. But I don't want to get political, but anyways. But yeah, network and talk to these people. And you know, when I got the job at Icelandair, there was 462 applicants, and my boss at the time was in our UK office for 5 years, and she saw my resume and she saw Oxford, and you know, there's a study out there that there's about 10 universities in the world that kind of go cross-culturally, no matter what language it is. You see it, you know Harvard. You know, you see Harvard, you know Harvard. You see Princeton, you know Princeton. Well, guess what? Oxford's one of those universities. It's a very prestigious university, and people in the States know it. And so when they see that on your resume, and you tell them what you did, and you explain to them that, you know, what you did here, they're going to want to bring you in. This person went to this, you know, prestigious university. They, you know, apparently worked their ass off while they were there. You know, that already is going to set you apart. You have, like I said, only 10% of students actually study abroad. So that already sets you ahead of many people. And I did want to mention one thing on the social media that I forgot, which is one great story of a girl who applied for a job I was hiring for, not this most recent one, but one prior. And we brought her in for an interview, and right before I was like, oh, let me see if this girl sent a tweet or something today, you know, for this job interview, like, oh, I'm excited for an interview or something like that. She tweeted, kind of really hope I don't get this job at Icelandair, because I really just want to go to Bermuda this summer, or something like stupid like that. And so as soon as she came in, most people probably wouldn't just call her out blatantly, but I did, because I'm mean. But I was like, so she's telling me how much she would love to work for Icelandair, and it's such a great company, and I love to travel. And I was like, oh, that's great, but like, what about that tweet you sent out about 20 minutes ago saying you hope you didn't get this because you want to go to Bermuda this summer? And she's like, I was just kidding. That was a joke. I'm like, sorry. Needless to say, she didn't get hired. Nice girl. I hate to bring her up, but everything you do on social media can and will be found by a potential employer. We vet everybody, every single person. I will Google your name. I'll Google your name, the university you went to. I'll Google everything about you. Anything I can possibly think of. If I see you're a hockey player, I'll Google Michael Jones Kelly hockey player, and then I'll want to know, oh, was he good? Was he bad? I got to find out who you are if I'm going to bring you in for an interview. And if I whittle it down to 40 people who I'm thinking about bringing in, then I need to know who I'm bringing in. So you have to just be super, super careful. And I'm sorry, but privacy settings saves you from absolutely nothing. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm going to post this, but I'm going to block MJK, like, so he doesn't see it. Like, I can show MJK in about 5 seconds how he can see that, even if it's blocked. So, yeah, there's just ways. And you all accept friend requests from, I mean, there's just so many stories. It's one person, it was a final 3. I really couldn't decide who I wanted to hire. And so this person had an Instagram. This is kind of sketchy, I'm sorry. But I made a fake account. I added them. They added me in 3 seconds. And every picture I see is she's just getting wasted with her friends. I thought that I had this thing. I was like, you know what? I kind of saw that, but I couldn't find it. And then, yeah, don't accept every request, guys. Take a look for 5 seconds before you accept everything. If it's John Doe with a blank photo. But this is what I'm saying. You guys think, like, I say like I'm crazy, but the job pool is 500 applicants, 400 to 500 applicants. And then when it gets down to 3, everybody's basically the same. And all you have to, I have this thing in my head where I say, like, products don't make companies, people make companies. And employers, they just want to find the right people. You might not even have all the right skill set, but if you're the right person and I think you can learn the job and I see potential, then I'm going to hire you, because you can, if you can show that you can learn the job and you have the ambition and you really want to work for this company, you can pretty much work, wherever you want to work. So I'll talk a little bit about interviews, because a lot of people get nervous with interviews, and I'm not very good at giving interviews because I just kind of get off track. But I think dress the part, and it's like, okay, I'm going to wear a suit then. Not always true. If you're going into an ad agency, you kind of got to look it up and maybe try to find some people who work there, look up their photos. I know it's weird, but I showed up to an advertising agency wearing a suit like this, and everybody else was in jeans and a T-shirt. I look like a friggin' idiot, okay? Like, these people are looking at me like, who the hell is this guy, like, wearing a suit to our ad agency? Like, what are you doing? Or you come in and you're wearing, some people saw me yesterday, jeans, a T-shirt, and a blazer, and you're like, hey, I'm doing it, and then you're in an interview with somebody wearing a suit. You look dumb. It just doesn't look good. So you really have to, and it's, it's a fine line, but, try to find out what you can. Make a portfolio. Don't just apply and then I say, hey, come in for an interview, and you come in with nothing. Show me you're prepared for the interview. Research the company. Nothing impresses me more than when somebody comes in and tells me something they know about Icelandair. Or, it's not even like, oh, I flew you last year. That doesn't matter to me. Like, I want to know what you know about Icelandair. What did you see in our advertising that you liked? What did you, why did you apply for this company? For Icelandair is a unique example. It's travel, and everybody loves to travel. So everyone's like, oh, I really have a passion for travel. Everybody in the world has a passion for travel, okay? Everybody loves to travel. So, if you're applying to, an ad agency, say, oh, I saw this campaign that you did. I really love that campaign, and so I said, hey, this is somebody I really want to work for. So that goes a long way. And then the number one thing to do in an interview is connect the things you've done here, at your other school, in your internships. You have to have like a set of things almost that you go back to as a default. For example, this speech right now and the stories that I tell, those are all experiences that I've had that I can always connect to certain things. And so you have to kind of come in with a set, you don't know what questions you're going to get asked, obviously, but you sort of have to come in there with like, this was a really good experience for me at Oxford because it showed how I grew as a person, or this was a really hard project I did because I was working on a team and somebody decided that they just wanted to get drunk every night, so I had to do everything. Like you just have to have experience. You're going to get asked general questions about how do you work in a group, and so you have to just have be prepared with, with experiences. Always send a follow-up email. It just goes a long way. It just shows, like, again, it's the extra. It's almost like it's the ribbon on the present. It's the bow tie. Yeah, you appreciate it and thank you so much for bringing me and choosing me, and then highlight again why this company should hire you. Highlight what you're going to bring to the table for this company. And I just like, this is a quote. I think it's either I made it up or it's like a real thing and I just remembered it. But the experiences you have here can be used for everything, everywhere. So honestly, you could be having a pint with somebody and having a conversation about Brexit, and then you could be sitting in an interview, and I'm going to ask you, what, cultural experiences did you have there? Or what was going on when you were there? Oh, it's crazy when I was there. Brexit was going on, and we were out and we were talking, and it just really gave me this unique perspective on, politics in England or something like that. For example, for me, the Olympics were going on here while I was here. So I kind of used the experience of going to the Olympics, and all these cultures were here, and it was a cultural center in London, and I went to the Olympics, and I met people from a lot of countries and learned how to communicate with other countries, which maybe for a marketing firm in Buffalo that doesn't do international things is not of any importance to them. But I was applying for an international company who works in a lot of different markets. Boom, the connection's there, and that's what you have to do. You have to connect these experiences that you have here to the jobs that you're applying for. Tack för er. Thank you very much. That's all I have. I will take questions. If anybody has any questions, please ask me anything you would like. I will answer anything honestly. I have to say one thing to sort of break the ice here because it's a little stiff in the room right now. I left Iceland Tuesday, and I showed up here yesterday, put all my stuff down, and I didn't have my suit. So this is a brand new suit, so I have to shout out Victor at Moss down over here because he threw in the shirt and tie because I told him I would say that. Exactly. I said, hey, I'll promote you if you throw this shirt and tie, and he said, okay. He probably would have thrown it anyways, but.
Didn't he need any alterations? Neck or sleeve or?
And I look good in everything.
You do. I'm amazed. I mean, I'm very.
Anne's the ultimate confidence booster. I don't think she's ever said a bad thing before. Questions? Yes.
As a company with social media, as far as like you said with drinking. I mean, obviously, if they see you shotgunning a beer, they're gonna avoid you. But I'm just curious if a picture of you with a couple of friends with a beer in your hand, you're over 21, will that still be a red flag to you? Or?
Sometimes it's a green flag. I don't want to see. Sometimes I don't want to see somebody who's to the T. It depends who you're applying for, I would say, because finance companies and things like that, they're probably a little bit more strict. But if you're going for a marketing job, we don't want a robot. We want to have someone with personality. So, I mean, everybody drinks with their friends in college, but if you're doing a keg stand in your photo, might want to leave that one out, even though you might have broke the record. I would that might impress some people, but no. So, I mean, yeah, if, it's so funny, how many people have been out with sports teams and it's dry season, and they go to take the photo, and everybody puts the drink behind the back. It's okay to have your drink, there, just don't be doing keg stands and stuff. Yes?
When you say bring a portfolio to interviewers, what kind of things did you include?
Okay, portfolio is, you kind of make like a little pretty cover, you know, and put the company on, put the date of your interview on it and your name and have just a little cover, maybe throw their logo on it or something. And then the first page you want to see is the cover letter, and the second page is just have your resume in there because, yeah, we do 40 interviews. Unfortunately, you're gonna leave and we might not remember you, but if I have a nice portfolio where I can go back and say, oh yeah, I remember her, and then after that I would say just some work experiences. Like for example, nobody's gonna actually write that thing that I came up with, but let's say you did a study or something like that. Throw that in. Throw a one-sheeter in on the study that you did. Throw, you know, some work. Let's say you're going for some type of like design or something like that with like a marketing firm. Did you come up with some logos before? Like throw some, you know, logo designs in there and things like that. So just, I would say, past projects or experiences that you've had that you can kind of show on paper. It could even just be a project for a marketing class or a business, you know, project that you did your freshman year. Like if it was good and you got a good grade on it, then, and you know, it shows employers that you're competent. Like, if, for example, the marketing job in itself, marketing's great and it's fun, but it's also very analytical and it's very data driven. And so I really like applicants who have portfolios that they've done some, like a project in the past that involves some market research and things, and they said, oh, you know, we came up with, we saw that, you know, 25-year-olds really like smartphones, so we said, you know, we're going to put 80% of our money into smartphone advertising or something like that. You know, we kind of like to see, I particularly like to see some data stuff behind projects people have done. Yes?
Would you prefer us having a digital portfolio or a paper portfolio?
Paper. I know it's old school, but have a digital portfolio on your LinkedIn. Definitely have like a portfolio on your LinkedIn because sometimes the employers will see that and they'll open it up right then and there and want to see some of the stuff that you've done. And then definitely bring in a paper portfolio because like I said, we're doing 80 interviews, you know, or 30 interviews and you forget people and it just kind of helps remind you. And if I also get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. So if you send me your follow-up email and you're like, hey, thanks a lot. By the way, here's like a digital portfolio of stuff I've done. I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, thanks for coming in, but like, I probably won't open it. Like, I want to see it. It's just more in front of me than, unfortunately, people skip emails and things like that. Yes?
So on social media, we covered drinking and everything, but something that is more, I think, relevant right now is political posts. Where do companies fall in that? If you're
We fall in the don't do it.
So if you don't support a certain candidate?
I mean, everybody has their political views, but I mean, and maybe you don't know if it's a radical political view or not because it seems normal to you, but that's kind of the, like for example, for Iceland Air, we, as employees, it's very frowned upon to post anything about what candidate, because it makes the company, it seems like the company supports that candidate. So a lot of companies just ask that you don't. So I would shy away from, you know, I think if you were like, oh, you know, I went out and voted today, I voted for Hillary, you know, go Hillary, like, okay, fine. Like, but just know that that is alienating somebody. Like, if I'm a potential employer and I am a Trump supporter and you posted about Hillary, like maybe I was, you know, I don't know. Like, it's always the little things sometimes that just get you, you know, put to the side. And every employer has their little thing. For example, for me, my number one pet peeve is when people put Iceland Air and they put a space in between Iceland and Air. It's one word in a lowercase a. And I will honestly throw your resume out if you misspell Iceland Air, because you should have known. I mean, you're applying for this company. It says it right there. Why did you misspell my company's name? Well, you obviously don't really want to work here then if you can't even spell the name right. So it's really the fine little things when you're getting into so many applicants and there's so, like, there's just so many good applicants, honestly. Like the application pool, it's like I said, it's basically once you get your foot in the door and you have interviews and things like that, a lot of times it's just going to come down to personality and if you're going to fit well within the company and within the organization, because so many people are just come out and they're pretty capable of being able to do things. So you're kind of trying to find the little things to separate people out. Anybody else? Yes?
How would you say your experience at Oxford bettered you as a person instead of just as an employee?
I think for me, it kind of opened up. You kind of get a wider, more global perspective on things, especially in the States. America is the greatest country on earth, so you're told from when you grow up. And England is, oh man, they got the healthcare and all that. Like we don't want that stuff. Like that's kind of in our head. And then you come here and you're like, it's not that bad. I mean, it's pretty cool over here. And so I would say, Oxford as a person, it helps you grow because you become, more global minded. And every company now is looking for global minded people because every company wants to be a global company. Whether it's a small marketing firm and they're starting to grow, and then if they can nail that first international client in London, then they can start getting more clients in London and they become a global company. So we're always looking for people who have, that perspective of it's not just the Northeast of the United States. It's not just, I grew up in New York, I love New York, I want to work in New York for the rest of my life. Like, we really want people who have a broader perspective, who understand different cultures, because even when I was working in the Iceland Boston office, I started, I was 23 years old, fresh out of college. The next closest person to me was 38 years old. That's a whole different lingo. I'm a social media guy, and they're like, why are we spending money on social media? It's stupid. And so I would say your experiences here, it helps you talk to your tutors. Like it's more open here to just be open with your professors in conversation and at dinner, and you can just talk about things. So you kind of learn how to communicate better with every generation, at least when I was here, because a lot of times in the States it's very stagnant and your professor says what they say and you listen and you ask a few questions, and that's pretty much it. There's not really a relationship with your professor or tutor, as you would call it. So I think, it teaches you how to communicate better, and it teaches you, and also, I mean, even Iceland there, 16 people. We have a Greek lady, we've got some Icelandic people, we've got two Brits, and so even just in our office of 16, there's different countries, different cultures, different beliefs. And, when you can connect, because you've been here, you can come into a company, and if you never have been to England, and let's say your boss is British, and you can say, I have cultural experiences, I can work with anybody. I can communicate with any type of culture, because, every culture and the way people work and kind of the social life around work is very different. In this country, like here, when I go out to meetings at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, most of the time you take a beer, even if it's like sometimes on a Wednesday or Tuesday. Okay, you do that in America, it's like, who's this alcoholic at the table? Like, you don't take beer on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Like, when I go to Copenhagen, it's beer with everything. It's just like 8 in the morning, we're having a meeting, the guy's like having Carlsberg in the back. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just different cultures, and you have to know how to communicate with them. How do they work? People always use the example of the United States and China, and the way that you shake hands in China, and the way you do business in China. But that's like the drastic example. But I would say just in the small thing of even we speak the same language, but there's still so many different cultural intricacies that you kind of grow to understand how to communicate with them, and why they should listen to you, instead of just thinking that that every American is like Texas. We all have like 18 guns, and we love Donald Trump. Anybody else?
I had
Yes.
a question. I was thinking, I looked back and I see Ryan, and you were talking about digital portfolio as opposed to a paper portfolio you bring in. So tonight, he is recording your lecture videotape, whatever they use now. And I'm thinking, so would it be like useful, say, if you were applying to like print out a picture or two of what he was doing to add to the portfolio, that he brings it on paper?
Yeah, I mean, you could, like, for example, actually on resumes, I personally, sometimes I don't, some people include photos of themselves, actually. I don't mind that. If anything, it's like, okay, you kind of connect the face. It makes it a little bit more personable. But I think from the portfolio perspective, you're more just looking towards the work that they've done. And if you've done some video stuff, for example, for me, I had a little bit of web design background, and taking a screenshot and throwing that in is one thing, but actually putting in the sites that you've done or things that you've done that were the URLs and stuff, even in paper or digitally, where they can click it and like go surf it themselves and see how you did it. Or if you did a project that involved like a YouTube video, yeah, anything like that. I think it all enhances tells me what you can and can't do. And I think like it's important to know, like, as employers, we know you can't do everything. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the potential in you. And if you can show me experiences where, I can see that, okay, he was really good at this, and then I can see that you could come in here and do, something that maybe you haven't even done before, but you just showed me that you can do the research side of it, or, you showed me enough for me to feel comfortable saying that you have the potential to work for my company. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me back again.